In this blog, we will open the doors to a world where kindness rules supreme, dreams come true, and every little heart can find hope. Stay with us as we take the pieces of a classic story and weave them into a colorful fabric that conveys to today's children. This timeless tale promises to be a delightful trip for all ages, with everything from glass slippers to pumpkin carriages, magical transformations to the strength of adaptability. Mirrors have never been my friend. They told me the truth, they showed me all my flaws and didn't mention anything positive about me. They didn't know I was a good person on the inside, or that I was kind. They just showed me my pimples, the dark circles under my eyes, and my impossible-to-manage hair. I should have had them all covered and shown them they couldn't hurt me. But I knew they could. I knew I was ugly, I had been told that my entire life. Yet I couldn't do anything about it. All I could do was hope I found a man to love me for who I was and not who my mother wanted me to be. The door to my room opened and grabbed my attention. Away from the horrid mirror. I quickly wiped my eyes so nobody knew. I had been crying to myself. They couldn't know, they couldn't see my weakness. Not in that world. "Good morning, Anna," my stepsister said in her usual sing-song voice. "What's good about it?" I asked, never expecting an answer. I watched her, the one with the fancy name of Cinderella, as she restocked the kindling in my fireplace. She was dressed in an ugly gray dress but still looked breathtakingly beautiful. I couldn't stand the way she was always so perfect. Everyone loved her, she was charming. Every time I looked at her, I couldn't help but think of my inadequacies. It was torturous. To make it worse, I was sure she rubbed it in my face. At every chance she got. I was sure she told whoever would listen how horrible we were. She didn't like my family. My mother and my sister. She didn't want to be there with us but wouldn't leave. Instead, she liked to remind us how terrible and ugly we were. Life had been that way ever since Cinderella and her father entered our lives. At first, it was exciting. Mother fell in love with him, a real lord. She doted on him, she thought. She had a real shot of happiness forever. I had never seen her so happy. The wedding was magical. My mother wore this dress that shone like 1,000 diamonds. All three of us daughters were bridesmaids. It was probably the first time in my life that I felt beautiful. In the rose-red dress, I couldn't have felt any different. I should have suspected Cinderella wasn't happy with the wedding that day. She didn't smile very much, she just clung to her father like we were taking him away or something. We weren't, of course, but she feared it anyway. My sister, Zelly, and I were excited about having a father again. He wouldn't replace our own who died many years ago. But he was a chance at a new beginning. I longed to have a father to protect me from all the evil in the world or even just the bullies in town. We were going to be a happy family. Then he got sick. For the few months in between, it was blissful. My mother danced around the manor house singing and smiling to herself. She was full of hope and happiness. For a time, nobody dared to tease me, because I would tell my stepfather about them. Everyone was happy and it felt like it would last forever. But it didn't. My stepfather got sicker and sicker until he passed away. It was one of the darkest days for our family. My mother wailed at his passing, taking to her bed. For the months afterwards, my sister and I were left to manage the house, despite the fact we didn't know what we were supposed to do. We didn't get told if we were doing it right, only yelled at if it was wrong. During that time, Cinderella barely spoke to us. I knew she was grieving too, probably more than any of us. So we left her alone. After a time, I thought it would be helpful if she helped out around the house, perhaps taking her mind off her loss. She agreed, throwing herself into her duties. Before we knew it, our home settled into our new family. Mother eventually left her bed. But it was only to boss us all around. Cinderella continued cleaning, even though I told her she didn't have to anymore. She liked to think we forced her into a life of slavery. But really I know she only did it so that she didn't have to think of her father and experience the grief all over again. My mother tried to avoid Cinderella. She preferred not to be reminded of her husband. They did look remarkably alike. I never knew what Cinderella's mother looked like. But she was certainly the spitting image of her father. I couldn't help but think of my stepfather either. When I saw her, she was a constant reminder of him. Even her mannerisms were the same. When she ate, when she smiled, when she spoke, everything was a flashback to the man who had changed our family forever. I was sure Mother saw it too, which made her sad again. It was not a happy way to live. I waited until Cinderella finished with the fire before going down to breakfast. She didn't eat with us anymore, not after my mother told her to chew differently. She took it as a personal attack on her, but we all knew it was only Mother's way of trying to deal with the memories. She could have come back and eaten with us at any time, but she preferred to eat with the help now. Zelly and Mother were already at the table when I arrived. I took my seat, looking at the breakfast laid out before me. There was barely anything on my plate. Just a few tiny slivers of meat and fruit. I said my good mornings, trying to be upbeat. For the sake of the others. We ate in silence, just like every other day in the house. Is there anything more to eat? I asked, still hungry from my measly meal. Surely we couldn't be so poor that we had to ration our food now? That's all you're getting, Mother snapped at me. I must have looked confused because she continued. You need to watch your weight if you're ever to find a husband. Nobody likes a pudgy woman to hold on their arm. I knew better than to speak back to her. She always told me what I should and should not do to find a husband. The rules would be a mile long if I wrote them all down. I would rather go hungry than suffer another one of her lectures. You're going to sulk now? Mother said to me when I didn't reply. No, of course not, Mother. I was thinking how wise you were. Zelly snickered at me across the table, enjoying my torment. She was naturally thin and tall, although not a beauty in the traditional sense. Her plate of food was at least twice as large as mine. You should be more like your sister, Mother said, only making it sting all the more. She didn't just stab me, she liked to twist the knife too. As I stared at her, I tried to think of how wonderful she was before Cinderella's father broke her heart. That was the mother I loved. I knew she was still in there somewhere. Yes, Mother. She seemed satisfied for now with my submission. So what are you going to waste your time on today? I wished she hadn't asked. She never approved of my activities, no matter what I did. I thought I might go riding, the weather is beautiful today. No, you're not. But nothing, no daughter of mine is going riding like a commoner. You are a lady and ladies do not ride horses. She rolled her eyes at me. You will never find a husband if you insist on carrying on like this. Everything always came down to finding a husband. Like it was the most important thing in the world. Why would I want to go through the kind of pain she went through at the loss of not just one but two husbands? Perhaps I would stay a spinster for the rest of my life. That wouldn't be a bad thing. At least I could do and eat whatever I like. What do you propose I do instead? I asked, trying to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. I genuinely wished to know what would please her. You can do your needlework. I nodded and excused myself from the table. I had some very important needlework to do. Ow, I muttered as the needle pricked my finger yet again. For all the time I had spent doing needlework, I was still not good at it. My pieces never looked complete. Only that they could have been done by a 5-year-old. Actually, a 5-year-old could probably do much better. Out the window, I spotted Cinderella. She was in the vegetable garden, picking out carrots. Mud was caked on the bottom of her dress and shoes. She never had to worry about being ladylike. She could do whatever she pleased on the estate. It was annoying and completely unfair. If Zelly and I had to have rules, then so should she. But not Cinderella, she was too perfect. Anna, did you hear? Zelly burst through the door, snapping my head in her direction. I put the needlework down, glad of the interruption. What was I supposed to hear about? I asked, completely in the dark. Nobody told me anything. So it didn't surprise me. The king is putting on a ball. Every girl in the kingdom is invited. She twirled around in a circle, with the thought of dancing all night in the palace. Oh, I replied. I was sure it wasn't the answer she was hoping for. I didn't want to go to a stupid ball where nobody would dance with me. All it would mean would be sore feet from standing around. I'm not going. You have to. The king has invited us all. We cannot refuse his kind invitation. Zelly sat on the chair beside mine. There are rumors he is trying to find a wife for the prince. Can you imagine getting to dance with Prince Charming? It will be magical. I'm sure the prince won't find a wife just by dancing with all the girls in the kingdom. Why do you have to be so sour? It will be fun, can't you just be excited? She crossed her arms, already starting to sulk. I shall be excited when there is something to be excited about. This is not it. Well, you have to go, Mother has ordered us to. We are to go and be lovely and wonderful and find husbands, Zelly said defiantly. I shouldn't have been surprised, of course. Mother would see it as an opportunity to marry off her desperate daughters. Still, I didn't have to like it. Fine. Is Cinderella going? Every girl is invited. We both looked out the window at our stepsister. She wouldn't have a problem getting 20 marriage proposals. If she tried, we had no chance. I spent the next 4 days hearing every little detail about the ball that Mother had managed to find out. She actually left the house, which I hadn't seen her do in a long time. She spoke with all the other ladies, trying to find any detail she could that would give us a head start on the other girls. I knew my mother meant well, but she didn't understand what it was like to attend those balls. She was always beautiful, she still was even though she was in her 40s now. People looked at me and they only saw the ugliness that was on the outside. They never got a chance to find out what I was really like on the inside. Unfortunately, no amount of makeup could hide my skin problems. Despite how much my mother caked on my face,